Hey guys, Gualter, Amarelo, your real estate mentor, here today at the Fall Landlord event. I've got a very special guest coming up today. He hails from Fall River. You may know him as one of the most notorious men in the city right now, maybe one of the most notorious people on the South Coast, but he's also a very genuine, qualified, talented politician. I've known Jasiel Correira for years now, and we've been able to share some very good insights on what's happening in the city. We've talked positively about the businesses here. We've talked positively about the events that are occurring. And no matter what happens, one thing stays consistent with him is he's always putting Fall River in a positive spotlight. So as many of you know, my group is mostly investors. There's a handful of real estate agents. Where are the real estate agents at today? You guys just want attention. I see you. It's cool. I gave you the camera. So for most of you, what's happening in the city is very important. Is that fair to say? Most of you own property. Where are my landlords at? Hands high, right? Be proud of that, right? You're a landlord, you own property in the city, you should be proud of it. Where are my people from another state? Who's from Rhode Island? Right? Who here's from Boston? Like it's another state, right? Hey, let's give the Boston guys a round of applause for showing up. I see somebody with a 10X hat back there. Give that guy a round of applause. 10X! Anybody know what 10X stands for? 10X stands for 10X, the 10X rule, which is multiply your goals by 10 times. If you think, I remember I did this when I wanted 40 units, and I was like, it'll take me 10 years to get 40 units. I read the 10X rule, and I said, I'm going to go to 500 units. And within 2 years, I had 40 units. Does that make sense? It didn't take much longer once I set my goal up there, once I said, boom, like explode, like how do I get there, explode. And so now I've set the goal for 5,000 units, so you guys know what I'm on track for, right? Aiming for the 500. If you got a property and you want to sell it, I'm looking to buy multifamilies. I don't buy the single family stuff. So that said, I'm going to bring up Jasiel in a little bit. He's going to give you some really good value on what's happening in the city. Who here would like the inside scoop? Who here knows that it's all common knowledge and you can just go and research it if you were smart enough? Who here will never do that? I know. I know this. And this is why we're doing the event, because Jasiel also knows this. He knows that there's so many programs that the city offers to landlords that they're not taking initiative to use. There's so many different assets within the city that we're giving free money away, we're giving free resources away, we're giving so many opportunities away to the city, to the landlords who invest here, and yet people don't use them because they don't know them. And at the end of the day, there's no excuse for your laziness. Is that fair to say? If it costs you money, then there's no excuse. What were the 3 skill sets? Everybody remember? The 3 things you need. You need skill set, money, and you need people. So we're going to talk about people for a second. All the people are in this room, right? Everybody here a real estate investor? Anybody here want to buy more property this year? Yeah. So this is the room. Anybody here want to sell some property this year? Who wants to lend some money this year? Who's a contractor, wants to get some work this year? Yeah, I know. Who works at Home Depot, wants to give us some discounts? Say hi to Brian in the back. Give him a round of applause.
And thank you for the business at the local Home Depot, and thank you for what you do. I love the energy. 10X it, absolutely, right? Think big, right? Have what you say or say what you have. And on behalf of the Home Depot, there's the great work that the team here does from Boston. We greatly appreciate it. What a great market. I had a chance to tour it today. Be collaborating with Gualter here as we learn more. So thank you all. I love the energy.
Give him a round of applause, guys. So without further ado, well, one more further ado. I lied. I'm also going to sell something today. Is that okay, guys? Is it all right if I sell something? Yeah. You guys know I'm a salesperson, right? I wrote a book. Give me a round of applause. Yeah. The name of the book is Broke to $250,000. And I wrote it when I was broke. I was not even sitting in your chairs. Right? When I was broke, I wasn't educating myself. I wasn't getting that knowledge. I wasn't getting the mindset. Right? And that was the difference. Because, well, actually, no. I also didn't have the people. I had no network. I had no people. I was homeschooled. Anybody been homeschooled? Exactly. So you have an advantage I did not have. Does that make sense? I had no network, no people, right? I was an accountant. Anybody accountant? I didn't think so. So no social skills. This makes sense, right? I had a complete disadvantage in the world. My parents were poor. We got that one at least? Anybody in here got those? All right, so we've at least got some commonality. So didn't have money, didn't have a network. And let me see, I had absolutely no knowledge on real estate. Anybody here have parents who own stuff? Yeah, my parents didn't own anything either. Okay. So we all had a disadvantage. We were starting somewhere, right? And has anybody read the book? Why people have read the book? Oh, look at you guys. Give yourselves a round of applause. All right. Yeah. I got 16 reviews on Amazon, all 5s, and I've got 15 people in here. I bet you some of you got some work to do for me, all right? I'm just saying, John, you know yourself, right? Get on that. So the book will be for sale. It's over there. If you brought your copy today, I will sign it. I will sign it because that's the coolest thing ever, and we're going to take a selfie. I've also brought the Agent Optimist banner in today, so we can get some selfies with everybody. We're going to do a big group photo at the end. Jasiel, you going to be here for our group photo? You sticking around? Good? All right. We'll make sure. We're going to do a special one where we come down and we stand there and we take a selfie before you sneak out of here. I get my selfies, right? And that's an epic one. That said, after I bring Jasiel up, we're going to have Joe, the 1031 Pro, come up here and talk about 1031 exchanges. Does anybody want to sell a house and not pay taxes? Has anybody ever sold a house and paid a buttload of taxes? Yeah. Has anybody sold 8 houses and paid a buttload of taxes? Yeah. It's not cool. So the 1031 exchange, I wish I knew about it sooner. When I heard Joe talk about it, I was like, dude, I need you to bring this to my people. Is it cool that I do that for you guys? I think so too. All right, with that said, let's give it up for Jasiel Correira, the mayor of Correira. The great, the one and only. Jasiel Correira, good to see you, bro. Thank you for coming in, man. Appreciate you.
How we doing, guys?
Give it up.
Oh, come on, that's weak. I want them to hear us in Boston. How we doing?
Hell yeah.
Still a little bit of work to do. All right, my name is Jasiel Correira II, mayor of the city, the great city of Fall River. We've been in the news lately. I've been in the news lately. That's not what I'm here to talk to you about tonight. I'm here to talk to you, as previously scheduled. Gualter asked me to be here tonight to tell you about why you should invest in Fall River and where you should be or how you should be thinking about the city of Fall River for the next 5, 10, 15 years. And that's what I'm going to do. And I'll open it up to questions in a little bit. But first, I've got a couple questions for you. If you were to close your eyes, which you don't have to do, but if you were to do that, and you were to picture a perfect city to invest in, the perfect place, what are some of the characteristics that place would have to get you that 10x, to get you that return on investment?
Good rents.
Good rents. High rents or good or low rents? Good rents. What does that mean? You have to keep in mind. You're real estate pros.
Good competitive value in the home.
Okay. So good rents. What else?
Jobs.
Jobs.
Waterfront.
Waterfront. Okay, that's a good one. We'll talk about that.
Less crime.
Good economy. Well, economy. Okay. Well, economy.
In the area.
Okay.
In other words, going
Restaurants and coffee shops.
Coffee shops, restaurants, maybe breweries. Okay.
Home Depots.
Of course. Which Fall River doesn't have, by the way.
Less crime.
Less crime. Okay. What else?
Good system.
That was like 3 people at once. What was it?
Good hospitals.
Hospitals.
Easy transportation.
Transportation. We're going to talk about that one tonight. Anything else?
Investors.
Investors. Okay, very good. Yeah, absolutely. Because it is investors, I'll start with that one. It is investors that generate that good economy. It is investors that can take a property from not so good property, right? Maybe boarded up, maybe a tax title possession, and take it into something that's a productive property, paying taxes, having good renters that are there, good tenants, contributing to our local economy. So you're absolutely right. It's investors. It's investors that are going to open up the breweries and the coffee shops and the different businesses that are in downtown. Those are all investors, whether they're opening a coffee shop, whether they're opening up a major business, those are all investors. And of course, real estate investors in the traditional sense of homes and rentals is an important piece of that puzzle. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about tonight. So the big ones I want to touch on were already said. Transportation, waterfront. I didn't hear anybody say location, which almost always comes up. Is that important? Right? Yeah. Proximity to other major metropolitan areas. right? Fall River is really, really good at that. And that's not something we can just have by accident. It is what it is. It's already here. Fall River's not going anywhere, right? In the next 20 years, your investment in Fall River is not going to change. Providence is still going to be in Providence, 20 minutes away. Boston's still going to be 50 miles away. Cape Cod's still going to be down the road from us, basically, and Newport, Rhode Island is less than 25 minutes. That's all going to stay in place, and it's going to be a constant that you can rely on for your investment. The city of Fall River is not going to change location, and that's really critical. That's really critical because now somebody that lives in Fall River, a property that is in Fall River, can easily access these other huge metropolitan areas with two major airports, T.F. Green and Logan Airport. Very, very important. And you'd be surprised, I know there's a couple people from New Bedford here, you'd be surprised the difference in time and just the feeling, the emotional feeling that somebody has driving from Fall River to Providence versus New Bedford to Providence. There's a difference in that community. There's a pretty big difference. New Bedford being just slightly further than Fall River, from Boston, slightly further than Providence, from Providence than Fall River, is a major factor that you might want to consider. So I think that's really important. Location, location, location. It's a staple of real estate. Waterfront. When you look up the 24 corridor, you look at Brockton, you look at Taunton, you look at places all the way up to Quincy. Quincy's getting a little too close to Boston, and they've got a whole different kind of real estate market. But you look at Brockton, you look at Taunton, they don't have a waterfront. Fall River is one of the few communities, cities, that has an actual waterfront, a true, beautiful, big waterfront. We border Rhode Island. We border Tiverton, Rhode Island. We've got access to all these waterways that allow us to access Cape and the Islands, Lock Island, Martha's Vineyard, Nantucket. This is a really great place to be. If you're out down, how many people have been to our waterfront before? Come on, let me see. 15 people? All right, everybody that hasn't, make sure you leave here, go down there, go to the Cove, go to Barrett's waterfront, go enjoy our beautiful waterfront. That's a big piece, and I think that the waterfront of Fall River is second to none in Massachusetts. So if you're looking for an urban center, an urban city, where you've got a boardwalk, how many places have a boardwalk? Anybody know? How many cities in Massachusetts have a boardwalk? Not too many, right? You've got that nice boardwalk in I think it's South Boston. There's not too many cities that actually have a boardwalk. That's a big deal. We talked about, what else did we say? So we talked about location. We talked about rents a little bit. What do you think about the rentals in Fall River? And again, I'm not the professional, you guys are. What is the rent in Fall River compared to New Bedford, compared to Brockton, compared to Boston? It's higher?
From what I heard,
Yeah, it's higher.
So I'll give you that. So in Fall River, our average rent is $900. In New Bedford, you're talking $800, and in Brockton, you're talking $1,200 for the same unit. So we're cheaper than Brockton. Even Taunton, you're looking at $1,200 as well.
Yeah, that's interesting. Okay, that's good to know. So I know that, right? So that's not something that I'm an expert on, so that was important information. One of the biggest factors, one of the most important factors to everyone in this room, and why you should absolutely invest in Fall River in the next 5 to 10 years is going to be the following. It is transportation. This gentleman here said it. Transportation is the great equalizer. It allows people to work further away and commute to different jobs and have different opportunities. It opens doors. And the city of Fall River and New Bedford, the South Coast, for the first time ever in a generation or more, will have a transportation connection via train to Boston, right to South Station. That train is already being built. That train line is already being built. That will be done by 2023. So you'll be able to hop on a train down into Wall Street here in Fall River on our waterfront and take a train and be in Boston in less than an hour and a half. I came from Boston yesterday, and it took me 2.5 hours to get a car, and it was terrible the entire time because you're focusing, your eyes are strained, maybe you're on the Bluetooth, which never works, and then you're taking off Bluetooth, then you're on your phone, you're a mess, you're upset, and it's terrible. Wouldn't you rather be on a train, on your computer, sitting there comfortably, knowing you're going to be on time, knowing that you don't have to pay attention to the road, stop and go, knowing you're not spending gas money? The train is the future. And when you go to other parts of the country, the West Coast, when you go to Europe, they got trains that are faster than some airplanes, and they're all over the place. So train is really, I think, really the important piece that you really need to think about, because we're like that's like discovering gold in a place that doesn't have gold, right? Right now, we don't have a train. and you already have rents that are escalating, right?
Yep.
You already have great properties, you already have a waterfront, you already have great restaurants, which we're gonna talk about in a little bit. And then all of a sudden, you double down, you suddenly discover oil, discover gold in that same place. Well, guess what? Now everything's gonna go up. So now's the time to get in. Because you have between now and 2023, when that train opens, to really look at some properties and say, hey, that's a property I think I can rehab, that's a property I think I can buy, and I know that I'm gonna get a really good tenant who's gonna wanna work in Boston, but have a great quality of life in Fall River. Now let's tie that in. Why are they gonna have a great quality of life in Fall River? Because number one, you're not gonna be spending $3,000, $3,300 a month on an apartment in Boston, right? They're gonna be on a train for an hour and a half, maybe at the most, and they're gonna be in Boston. They're gonna work in Boston, they're gonna work on State Street, they're gonna have a great job, they're gonna come home, but they need something else. They don't just need the home, they need the amenities, right? That's what I call them. Other people might call them the restaurants and the bars and whatever it may be, but they're amenities. It's just like when somebody goes and rents an apartment, they're gonna ask, okay, what are the amenities? Do I have, is the utilities included? Are there washers and dryers? It's the same thing when somebody's trying to choose between New Bedford, Fall River, Taunton, or Brockton. Because you gotta look at the like cities, right? I'm not coming here to tell you, invest here over Newton, Massachusetts. It's two different total markets, right? I'm telling you, look at New Bedford, Fall River, Brockton, Springfield, Taunton, Attleboro. Look at that. Look at those cities and then do a checklist of what do they have versus what does Fall River have. But they have a waterfront. Out of those 4 cities that I mentioned, besides Fall River, they don't. New Bedford's got a working waterfront, an unbelievable fishery industry, which is the best one in the entire country, which is incredible. But that's their thing, right? That's their market. That's what they're gonna focus on. And I've got a little tidbit at the end of this that's really gonna, I think, blow your minds on why you should invest here in New Bedford, but South Coast, Fall River, of course. Look at the restaurants and bars. So that's an amenity. People want to be able to come home, they want to be able to walk to a downtown bar, grab a glass of wine, have some cheese, go to dinner, enjoy themselves. That's important, that's happening in Fall River. Fall River is known for its Portuguese food. How many people know that already? Few people? All right, if you haven't been to a Portuguese restaurant in Fall River, you need to leave right now, go and have some appetizers and then come back. But you need to go and enjoy some Portuguese food. We are known for that. It's like going to the North End in Boston, it's like going to Federal Hill in Providence, we're known for our Portuguese food. That's an amenity. That's something that people say, wow, I can go out, I can have a really great meal, and I can enjoy myself. I can go to a bar, I can go to a brewery and enjoy myself. I can go get a coffee in the morning. And this is really important because over the last 3.5 years that I've been mayor, and I'm not making a campaign speech, that's not why I'm here. I'm here to talk about how great Fall River is. But over the last 3.5 years, we went from 0 breweries to now 2. Canned Heat, Troy City Brewery. That's pretty impressive. That's a win for the city of Fall River. For a community like Fall River, an old mill town like we are, to get 2 breweries in a couple of years is a big deal. Now, where do those breweries come from? Investors, right? It wasn't the city. It wasn't a government program. It was people that took a chance and said, I want to buy this brewery equipment. I want to create a beer here in the city of Fall River, and I want to open it up to the public and hopefully make some money. That's how that happens. It doesn't happen by accident. But those people calculate their risk. They're not going to open that brewery in the middle of Newton because there's probably not a population to support that. They're going to look at the right place to open up that brewery. And in their mind, those investors said Fall River was the right place. And we went from 0 to 2 breweries in less than 3 years. Coffee shops. Right back here, one of my favorite coffee shops, Pink Bean. I go there probably every single day. Then you have Time that just opened up right next door as well. You've got Duke's Bakery. I mean, there's tons. Barcelos, Portugal Marketplace. I can go on and on about the bakeries and coffee shops in Fall River. Many of those have opened up in the last maybe 5 years, even before I became the mayor. So that's really, really good. This is one of the critical pieces, and we actually, in Fall River, literally, internally in the government center, measured this as a huge check mark. Anybody know what I'm going to say? It's a coffee shop. Can anybody guess what coffee shop is a huge check mark for a community?
Starbucks, guys, come on.
That's an easy
In the investment community, we all know this. A
Yep.
Starbucks is a city to invest
So-
in. Yep.
So Starbucks opened up about a year ago in Fall River, the first Starbucks in the city of Fall River ever. This was a big deal because people truly didn't believe it could work. People truly believed that people were not willing to spend, I don't go to Starbucks, I don't know, $3.99 on an iced coffee, I have no idea. I go to local, really local businesses. But people didn't think it could work. But as a benchmark, as a city, and other cities think this way too, getting a Starbucks, getting a Whole Foods, which we don't have, but we're working on it, is a big, big win. It shows a changing of demographics in a positive direction. I don't mean demographics in terms of race or ethnicity or gender, I mean demographics in terms of wealth of the community. That's what I mean when I say that, and that's a big deal. Now, why is that important, and what else contributes to that? One of the most important factors that we as a city track is the housing stock. What kind of housing stock do we have, right? When I was growing up, I live in a 3-decker, I live on the 3rd floor, my grandmother on the 2nd floor, my aunt on the 1st floor, my parents obviously with me on the 3rd floor, right on William Street, not far from here. There were only 2 options when I was growing up. It was you lived in a 3-decker or a 6-family, a multifamily home, or you had a single-family home. And if you had a single-family home, you were rich. Like, that's what it was. That was the only 2 options, right? You had a lot of 3-deckers and 6-families, which are still really, really vital and important. I love when investors rehab one, make it look beautiful, and put them on the market and really bring in great new tenants to the city of Fall River that have a little bit extra dough. They can go and support a brewery. That's a great thing. But today, Fall River is a very different community with its housing stock. Not only do we still have the 3-deckers and the 6-family homes, we also have mills that have been rehabbed into new, brand new luxury apartments, 55-plus apartments, various kinds of apartment buildings. Really important piece down on Alden Street. Over 300 apartments were added on Alden Street alone in these gigantic mills down there, right? You've got Jerry Rippon, I keep calling Jerry Rippon.
I know, Commonwealth Landing.
Commonwealth Landing, down on Duval Street, luxury apartments in the old mill. You've got now, just announced, the first out-of-the-ground construction of 49 new units right next to the train. That's a huge, another check mark. It's a benchmark for the city. We have not had an out-of-the-ground brand new construction of a luxury apartment building ever in the city of Fall River. Never happened. This is the first one. That's a huge milestone for the city of Fall River. So those are the factors that I think you can take comfort in as an investor and say, wait a minute, these other people are doing something right here. They know what they're doing. They've got banks behind them. They've got Baycoast is doing one of the projects, for example, big bank in the area. Someone knows something's going on, right? And when you start seeing permits being pulled, and you start seeing buildings that used to be commercial space transitioning to become residential apartments, you know something's going on. So that's happening in Fall River alone. Right now, there are 2 conversions happening in downtown from old commercial buildings to residential apartments. I think those are going to have about maybe 30, 40 units altogether. Right down the street, old Bristol Community College building is going to be another 40 units. Another 49 units, brand new construction on the ground. That's what did I just say? Maybe 120 units just in this downtown region alone being converted, and there's still more demand. There's even still more demand. If you go down, this is like a little secret, right? You go down to Wall Street, you look at the bottom of President Ave in Fall River, that is essentially going to be the hub of the train. Anybody know what a TOD is? Transit-oriented development, TOD, transit-oriented development. That is the state's way of saying, these are the incentives that we offer within those zones. That's a 0.5-mile radius from a train station. So the state has all these crazy incentives for any property that's within a 0.5-mile radius, residential property, within a 0.5-mile radius of a train stop. Why? Because the state of Massachusetts, as many people know, has a housing crisis. They have an affordability housing crisis. They have a regular housing crisis. They have a luxury housing crisis. I think the luxury one is a bubble in Boston. That's my opinion. We've got a housing crisis. People need places to live. They're moving into Massachusetts. Why? This is a great state. We've got some of the best institutions to educate people in the entire world, right? Throughout the entire state, not just in Boston, but throughout the entire state. Even locally, between Bristol Community College and UMass Dartmouth, you've got some incredible organizations that not only educate people, but also train them for the workforce. Very, very important, which I'm going to conclude with in a second. Training in the workforce, remember that for a moment. We have an incredible state in healthcare. Somebody said hospitals, right? Hospitals. We have Primacare, one of our biggest employers. Stewart Hospital Group owns San An's Hospital. San An's Hospital is the city of Fall River's largest taxpayer. People don't know that. They pay $1.3 million a year in taxes, right? We've got Charlton Hospital, which we were dealing with an issue today, and we're fighting for a healthcare issue. It's much bigger than the city. It's a Blue Cross Blue Shield issue. Those are 3 hospitals in Fall River alone. Why is that important? Anybody know a nurse? You know how much money nurses make? They make a lot of money.
Yep.
I know a lot of nurses that make a ton of money. How many people here personally know a doctor? They make a ton of money, right? Those people are here in Fall River. They want a good place to live. They want a nice property. There is not enough nice property right now for people to rent. They're full. They're full. Cornell Mills was 104 luxury units, starting at $1,400 a month, going up to $1,800 a month. It sold out pre-sale before they opened the building. That's how quickly these places are filling up. That's prior to the train getting here. Now put yourself 3 years down the road, train is here, jobs in Boston, jobs here, jobs in Providence, waterfront, restaurants, breweries, coffee shops. It's the recipe for success. That's what the city of Fall River is when you look at it from this perspective. You're in the golden opportunity time between 2020 and 2023 when that transportation unlocks the next milestone, which will push property values up. Very important period of time. There's another one which I'm going to conclude with, and I'll open up to questions, that is equally vital. Because a lot of times, mayors, politicians, investors, people, they'll say, well, we need the connection to Boston because that's where the jobs are. That's not always true, and I really want you to get out of that total mindset, because that's not always true. And the reason it's not always true is number one, there are plenty of jobs in Boston, that is true. That's always going to be, that's a great place to work. There is an industry boom in Fall River that is really important for all of you to leave here knowing is going to happen. And that is the wind energy sector. Wind energy. How many people know what wind energy is, right? Big mills, windmills, right? So Vineyard Wind has an exclusive deal to do a wind energy farm somewhere 22 nautical miles in the ocean off of the coast of Fall River in New Bedford. We're the hub. They're signing leases, they're doing deals, they're trying to buy property as we speak, right now. Right now they're doing that deal. They need to hire 3,000 people. And this is a 7-year project. 7 to 10, but it's really, their timeline is 7. They want to deliver the project in 7 years. Tons of incentives, a multi-billion-dollar project. Why is this important? Remember when I talked about workforce training? You're not going to get people from Boston to learn how to become underwater welders that are going to then live in Boston and move and to commute to Fall River every day to go and work out 22 nautical miles in the ocean. What's going to happen is those people are going to want to live in Fall River. They want to live right here. They're not going to need a train to get to Boston because they're going to live here and they're going to work here. 3,000 people to pull off this project. This is huge. Underwater welders, electricians, they're making $90 an hour on these kind of projects. Now, right now, the biggest concern Vineyard Wind has is that they don't have enough talent to actually fulfill the job. So we have already begun with UMass Dartmouth and Bristol Community College workforce training to ensure that a pipeline of talent can be built to meet the demand. That's underwater welders, plumbers, electricians, boat operators, food services to feed all these people, right? This is going to be an enormous boom to the city, in addition to the train. Now, why is this important? I have been fighting like hell to make sure that we and New Bedford both, because we're both regional partners on this initiative, are leaders in this industry. And some of it is full circle, by location. It is just a simple fact that cannot change that the city of Fall River is 22 nautical miles from the site. We didn't make that happen. We didn't court the wind energy industry here. We just happen to be the best location to provide the jobs and transportation to the site, which means that 3,000 people are going to need to be trained, going to need to live somewhere, are going to need to go out and get coffees and restaurants and do all those great things with their families and friends right here in the region, specifically Fall River and New Bedford, as urban centers. This is a huge opportunity for any investor, for any person looking to buy property in the next 3 years, because you're going to have two huge explosions. One, the wind energy sector, and two, transportation. You get the combination of both at the same time. Now, why is that important? I've said this, we've talked about this before. I don't like when people talk about recession, because I think you can talk yourself into a recession. If every single person that's a pundit on television talks about a recession, what happens? Investors pull back. Oh, maybe I'm going to sell my Apple stock because the iPhone 11 just came out. I'm going to sell. Right? That's what happens. I don't have any Apple stock, just for disclosure. But, do you know what I mean? So when pundits talk about recession, people start to get cold. Right? They start to pull back, and you're going to get less investment. But those two things that I just talked about are certain things. They're guarantees. They're not maybes. They don't depend on other factors. The train is already being built. The Army Corps of Engineers approved their plan. Permits have been pulled. Tracks are being laid. The plan is moving forward, and the funding is there, which is obviously most critical. Vineyard Wind is moving forward. The only hiccup they've experienced is that the President of the United States is holding back some certain incentives they need from the federal government, but they cannot slow down because there's too many parts in the pipeline that have already begun. So those incentives will be on the back end of the project. That's what they've at least communicated to us. So those two factors alone allow the city, God forbid if the country does enter into a recession, to soften the blow of a recession. Because those jobs are going to continue to move forward, and those things will stimulate the economy, as somebody said earlier. So I hope I kind of made enough connections for you to blend it all together. Everything you said I tried to work in because it's all important. And I just want to answer some questions that you may have that are specific, and we'll go from there. Good?
Yeah. Good stuff. You guys getting a lot out of this so far? It's valuable information? Yeah? All right, what questions do you guys
No, I'm
have?
not as like peppy as this guy.
Try your best, man. Try your best.
So I got a question, are any of those areas designated as an opportunity zone?
That's an excellent question. They are. So the actual, well, you're sitting in an opportunity zone right now. This is a federally designated opportunity zone that you're sitting in. Next to the train is not fully an opportunity zone. But what we can do, and this is very easy, I can do this tomorrow. I'll provide the maps, the opportunity zone maps, and you can distribute that however you feel is. They're public, so you can put it on Facebook and do whatever you want. But that's a great question. So I was very fortunate to go to a conference out in San Francisco, specifically about opportunity zones. And they actually recommended, which we haven't done yet because it's still a little too new for us, but they recommended the city create an opportunity zone coordinator to actually reduce and bring in opportunity zone money. There's still a lot going on with opportunity zones from a city perspective. You know, we're looking at, okay, are people going to do opportunity zone funds, and they're going to pool money and then do a bunch of different projects? Because the most ideal, like if I were to close my eyes and say, as a mayor, what wish could you have if somebody was going to invest a ton of money? I would say, okay, let's look at a whole entire street. Let's look at an entire neighborhood and redevelop the whole thing. Let's do a multi-$100 million project in an entire section of the city and create restaurants and housing and jobs and all this stuff next to the train. That would be like the priority project. So we're watching that very closely because we think that's possible. We think that we can get an opportunity zone fund to come in and say, let's do an entire section of the city and really make a huge impact. But I'll get that, to answer your question specifically, I'll get that map to Gualter and he'll distribute it.
And everybody signed up the email on the way in today, right? Everybody signed up, gave me your email address? All right, so we'll make sure we send that out. Thank you.
Do you find yourself following the lead of, let's say, cities like Boston in their development, even at a small scale?
Absolutely. So one of the things that I have done is we took a very similar approach to what Boston did with the Boston Redevelopment Authority. So the Boston Redevelopment Authority really led the way in developing all of the Seaport District, which is like the hottest real estate in New England, right? I mean, it's just unbelievable, the explosion of growth in the Seaport, which 10 years ago were just parking lots, right? Essentially for Logan Airport. What an incredible thing they've done there. So what we did is economic development used to be run by a quasi-government organization that was a nonprofit, separate entity that got funding through grants through the city. What we've done is we've actually instilled that power in the redevelopment authority itself. So the redevelopment authority here, which is a quasi-government agency, 1 appointment by the governor, 4 appointments by the mayor, and their own executive director, actually with their own funding, actually runs economic development. Why is that important? Because the redevelopment authority has an incredible opportunity that the city cannot take advantage of. The redevelopment authority can negotiate directly with an owner of a property without the same stringent restrictions that a city has, right? We've got to do certain things. We've got to do certain kind of bidding. We've got to do certain kind of labor, stuff that the RDA doesn't have to do. We can't negotiate the way they can negotiate in executive session. So the redevelopment authority is now a much stronger redevelopment authority that owns property. So in Fall River, the RDA owns 90 acres up where Amazon is. How many people know we have Amazon here? We have 2,000 2,000 people working there, which by the way, that just reminded me of something I was thinking about earlier that I forgot to say. How many people are familiar with what happens when Amazon's headquarters moved to Maryland recently? Anybody know what happened? I was with somebody recently that sold their home and moved to Massachusetts, which right now we have like some of the highest housing prices in the country by percent. And they said they have sold their house because their house value, when Amazon announced they're moving its worldwide headquarters #2 to Maryland, right outside Washington D.C., house prices went up 30%. This person I was talking about said they sold their house for 30% more than they could have literally the day before Amazon announced, which is crazy. I don't think that's going to happen with the wind energy and the train, but I do think there's going to be a pop. Because when you all of a sudden have 3,000 high-paying jobs, which is what, they're not the Amazon jobs, right? They're not the executive jobs at Amazon's headquarters. When you have somebody making $90 an hour, that's a pretty decent job. So that pop is going to happen because those people are going to demand to buy single-family houses. They're going to demand to buy real estate. They're going to become real estate investors themselves. So getting back to the point of the answer is the redevelopment authority is very similar to the BRA, which is the Boston Redevelopment Authority, in that yes, the redevelopment authority can buy property, sell property. They own 90 acres. They own a waterfront property, and they actually have 2 urban redevelopment plans, one on the waterfront, one in downtown. So they've identified abandoned property, underutilized property, property that they can turn into parking, because parking is very important for downtown growth, and that's the organization that's leading the way to create a better Fall River. So that's what we're doing now. We have a question here.
And we're gonna make this the last question, guys. Oh, I know. I got Joe coming up, so I feel bad, but make it good, man. Make it good, Zach.
You had mentioned incentives for property owners for
Yes.
5 miles of train stops. What are those incentives?
So those are state incentives, so I can't list them all today because I just simply don't know them. But you can look it up, it's a TOD, Transit-Oriented Development Project. And those are state incentives. They are typically for new construction, but occasionally there are incentives for rehabs, things like that. What I can tell you is the incentives of city office, and I'll run through this really quick. Anyone in this room is more than welcome to visit the Community Development Agency, CDA, at City Hall. You're more than welcome to do that. We offer, if you're redoing a property and you have lead, we'll pay for that lead to be removed. That's one incentive. If you're looking to do a rehab on a property, we have low interest loans, sometimes almost 0% on rehabs. We have rehab money that we can give you and provide for you. There are some trade-offs, right? So, and not bad, not always bad, and sometimes you have to have income restrictions for your tenants, but that's not always a bad thing. There's some really good programs out there that allow you to still maintain control of your property and help, families that are in need while still getting a really, really nice income stream, cash flow from some of these programs. We've got, home funds. I could get into so many details. Home funds. We can provide $170,000, up to $170,000 per unit to redo the unit with home funds, for example. These are all things that everyone in this room can take advantage of. And that's citywide. It doesn't have to be in an opportunity zone. It doesn't have to be in a transit zone. So those are things that you can take advantage of locally that are really, really exciting. If you're an investor that's a little bit bigger than maybe doing a 6-family and you want to do a commercial property conversion, we've got a ton of incentives around that. Historical property stuff, which can be tricky. This can be tricky. So, but we could do 11 units, right? So imagine this. Imagine you wanted to convert this building into 20 units. We could provide funding at $170,000 max. It's on an annual basis. We have a cap that we can use within 1 year. $170,000 for 11 units. That's $1.8 million towards your project. Some serious money, right? So let's say you wanted to do 20 units here. 11 is the number I use because after 11, then you've got to do prevailing wage, there's certain other stuff you got to do that you don't want to do because it pushes your price up. So you could do up to 11 units, that's 1.8 million actual money into your project. This is like a pretty cool incentive. So I would encourage everybody in this room that wants more information about that to reach out, right? They're more than welcome to reach out to you, and they can get in contact with our office, the Community Development Agency, and we can help you with any of that stuff. But definitely look up to Todd, that's an important one. And I guess we have the 1031 tax expert upcoming.
Yep.
If you're selling a property, make sure you reinvest that money, tax-free in Fall River, do the 1031 tax exchange. I really enjoyed your company tonight. I hope you enjoyed mine. I wanted to make sure that I upheld my commitment to my good friend here with his pep in the step. Look at him. He's got this purple shirt. Looks great.
And as promised, thank you everybody. Before we go, I'm not letting him out of here. He knows the deal. Every time we get together, there's a selfie taken. So smile, look good, but make sure you're seeing the value of the selfie is more than just
Yes,
a
probably
selfie.
stand up. No, I think it's
Absolutely, it would actually help a lot. So make sure if you're smiling, your face is clear to be seen. You want to tag yourself in the photo later. Everybody in this room, I guarantee you can't talk to them all unless you're finding and networking with them on Facebook. Does that make sense? So tag yourself in the photo. This way you can connect with people who are in the room. Does that make it a lot easier for you guys networking? All right. Excellent. That's a video. Hold up.
You get the selfies.
Here we go. This is a good one, guys. Get it.
All right, last question before I leave. You asked me some questions. I wanna ask
That's
you.
it. Go get it.
Was this helpful? Was it
Yes.
good? Absolutely. Was it insightful and that it does help you in your decision-making process? Okay. All right, if you want, you're more than welcome to send me Facebook feedback. You can find me on Facebook, Twitter. I do have an Instagram, but I don't use it too often.
We're working on it. It's a work in progress. So.
And my email is mayor@fallriverma.org. You're more than welcome to reach out, okay? Thank you, everybody. Have a great night. Happy investing.
Guys, give it a round of applause. Give it up for the mayor of Fall River. Yes, sir. All right. Look, I know none of that information was valuable. You guys got nothing out of it, and you're all going to go home wishing, we didn't have Jasiel here. Is that false? Jay, thank you very much, man. That was so much value. You just gave and you gave and you gave. Did he not over-deliver on his promises?
Yes.
Yeah. Give him a round of applause. Very seriously, that's been my unfair advantage the last 2 years. Does that make sense? I go above and beyond more than the average investor. I make sure I know what's going on in my city. Is it okay that I have an unfair advantage over everybody else?
Absolutely. Yes.
I've always thought so too. So without further ado, we're going to bring up Joe. Joe is the 1031 Pro. I say it because it rhymes. He is phenomenal. And this is the unfair advantage that you as an investor can have. I have spent over $120,000 in taxes that I should not have, that I could have rolled. And $120,000, you guys know the rule of leverage in this game, right? I could have bought 5 times that in real estate. I could have bought $600,000 worth of house. But I did it because I decided I wanted to pay taxes because I didn't know anything about 1031 exchanges. So you guys are going to get an unfair advantage over anybody else who wasn't here today and who doesn't go back and watch this video. Is that cool? I think so too. Joe, come on up, bro. Give him a round of applause, guys.